Marcus Aurelius never picked up a golf club, but over 2,000 years ago, he and other Stoic philosophers laid out the perfect framework for this game. In this video, I'm going to break down 7 Stoic principles that can help you stay calm, focused, and consistent, even when golf tries to break you. Hi, my name is Jon Sherman. I'm the author of the best-selling book, The 4 Foundations of Golf. And on this channel, I am teaching you how to play this game. So here's the funny thing about Stoic advice in golf. You've already heard versions of this advice plenty of times before. Every time someone tells you to let go of a bad shot, stay in the present, or even control your attitude, that is Stoicism in a way. For those of you who listen to my podcast, you know that I love getting philosophical about golf, and I really do believe that these concepts can help beginner golfers all the way up to the tour player that I coach. So let's start with one of the most powerful and probably misunderstood ideas. Control what you can and accept what you cannot. We've all heard this term over and over again in our lives. It's one of the core tenets of Stoicism and plenty of religions. Golfers all know this on some level. We always hear players who just won a big tournament on TV talking about this. It's been in almost every single mental book ever written about golf. But to be honest, most players just gloss over this as a useless platitude. But I believe down to my core that to become a better and happier golfer, you need to draw a very clear line between what's within your control and what's not. Any golfer who is struggling with this game on some level is wasting a lot of time and energy on parts of their game that are genuinely outside of their control. Golf tends to attract people who love to be in control in everything in their life, and it has a way of addicting them because the rules are different. What do I mean by that? Well, here are a few examples. You can't control that no matter how good you get at this game, the range of your scores from one day to the next can be quite large. Golf is obviously played outdoors, and things like the wind are completely out of your control. Our ball can land on the wrong side of the hill and bounce out of bounds. You might wake up one day and your swing feels totally different, also out of your control. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react that matters. The harder but more effective path in golf is to place your emphasis on what is in your control. Think of your attitude. Are you going to be the golfer that constantly has a pity party, or place more emphasis on accepting golf's ups and downs and trying to focus on your enjoyment? How you prepare is within your control. That could be your practice habits, how you study a course before you play it, or how you warm your body up before each round. We're never going to really solve this battle between what we can control and what we can't, and that's what I love about golf. And as much as I try to help other golfers with drawing this line of control, I struggle with it myself a lot at times. And I think the best we can do is constantly reflect if we're dwelling on parts of this game that are truly out of our hands. Something to think about. All right, now let's get into Stoic principle number 2. Embracing adversity. Ryan Holiday, who's a great author, and many of you have probably heard of him, he's a bit of a modern Stoic. He has an amazing book called The Obstacle is the Way, and I think this title perfectly sums up a hard truth about golf. The path of least resistance in this game is to let our minds focus on the negatives, the missed short par putts, the errant drives, the chunked wedges just off the green. It's so easy to dwell on these events and let them reinforce a negative narrative about our game or even ourselves. But we can flip the script. Seneca famously said that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Marcus Aurelius wrote a ton about using setbacks as an aid to develop in our progress. I don't have to tell you this, but golf offers us ample setbacks to learn from. Personally, I've had some horrible heartbreaks in my own competitive journey. I've been embarrassed in front of tons of people, choked in big moments, and had some really unpleasant rounds. Yes, some of them leave scars, but they were also learning experiences that allowed me to play with more freedom the next time. One thing that resonates with me at times is knowing that I've played this game long enough that it can't do anything to me that already hasn't happened. So I try to use that truth in difficult moments where it feels like things are really going against me. And I just think to myself, what's the worst that can happen here? I used to look at the golf course with a ton of fear, and I think the best anecdote to this is simply to lean into the challenge. You have to remind yourself that we did sign up for this game that is difficult at times, and the reason we love it so much is because we get these feelings of euphoria when we do break through. I find a lot of pleasure staying with my process and not giving up during difficult stretches of a round, and I know plenty of other golfers who are finding a lot of satisfaction adopting that philosophy. So you have to ask yourself, What's the point of playing a game that you know is challenging if we're not willing to embrace that at times? If you're only excited and happy when good things happen, and then your mood sours when they don't, is that the type of roller coaster you always want to be riding? All right, let's move on to principle number 3. Using rational thought to guide your actions. Stoicism teaches us that reasoning should rule our decision making and not emotions or impulses. Here's a great quote from Marcus Aurelius. You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all. I find that this philosophy pairs nicely with smart strategic decision making in golf. On some level, we all know that after we hit that errant drive into the trees or near the lip of a fairway bunker, that we should make the rational choice of getting back to safety. But we can't help letting our emotions and desire to control the outcome and score lead us down a different path. And that path is usually to blow up holes. And then we get angrier and all rational thought goes out the window. So if you have the ability to take these small moments in your round and pause and simply ask yourself good questions, it can make all the difference. Am I trying to chase after that pin because I'm not happy with how my round is going so far? Am I trying to hit a Seve Ballesteros wedge shot because I'm so angry I bladed my iron through the green? Ryan Holiday put it really nicely. Your feelings are choices. You choose anger over calm. You choose misery over joy. So again, you have to ask yourself, which choice is more productive on the golf course? In my view, rational thinking is a superpower to have when you're out there, because golf will take every chance to distract your mind and allow your emotions to take over. Of course, none of us are going to be perfectly rational for 18 holes. I don't ask that of myself, and I wouldn't ask that of you. But I think that's what makes golf special. It's a game that really tests our humanity. And the more and more we can inject rational thought into our stream of consciousness, I know you're going to have a much more pleasant experience and lower scores will follow. I can guarantee that. Now let's talk about gratitude, another really important Stoic principle. Thousands of years ago, Epictetus wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." We now know that practicing gratitude can have all kinds of psychological and health benefits that are plentiful. But then we have quotes like, "Golf is a good walk spoiled." I've been playing this game for over 30 years now, and my biggest regret is that I spent some of those rounds in a funk. I really was just too focused on my score and the results all the time, and I lost sight of the fact that I should be grateful that I even got a chance to play. I really don't need to tell all of you all of the things that have to go well for you in life in order for you to play golf. It's a combination of health, time, and certainly economic factors. Also, it's quite easy to pick apart our own games and compare them to other golfers, wishing we could putt like them or hit our drives effortlessly down the fairway. Whenever I'm struggling with this, I just go back to a baseline form of gratitude. Can I play golf? Great. It's that simple. That's why I find myself just as giddy on a Friday night at the age of 41, knowing that I'm playing the next morning as I was when I was a kid. And I also know why it's so important to take moments during each round we play to simply soak in the experience. And more importantly, when we're done with our rounds, we want to take some time to kind of rejoice and relive some of the highlights. I think about gratitude a lot and always try to come back to it as much as I can, because this really is one of the easiest things to lose sight of if you're an avid golfer. And that's why you hear me talk about it so much in my videos, podcast, or writing, because we all need this reminder. All right, so here's another Stoic principle that I think can get overlooked as a platitude, but it's really important. Focus on the present. We all hear this one over and over again in sports, especially in golf, but there are actionable ways to make this happen, and I love experimenting during my rounds to figure out what resonates for me. The thing about golf is that we can get stuck in this cycle of regret and rumination about shots that have already occurred. They're over with. And then at the same time, we start worrying about shots that haven't even occurred yet. So we all need to find creative ways to exist in the middle, or in other words, just be engaged in with what's going on in that moment in front of us. Routines are obviously really important for this, having a distinct process you go through as you prepare for each shot. Even if it's really basic, it doesn't have to take long, and I really don't want golfers to take that long before each shot. I've also leveraged breathing techniques like the box method to to help reduce all of the clutter in my mind at times. And also, don't forget that golf is a social experience. Engaging in conversation with your playing partners is actually a great way to exist in the moment. Other times, I just kind of let my mind drift. I'm staring at the trees, the golf course, thoughts are kind of coming through my head. Sometimes, honestly, they're a bit ridiculous, like what's the idea for my next YouTube video? Or sometimes I get an idea for a tweet on the course. Maybe one of my kids' songs gets stuck in my head as I'm putting. And I think this is really the basis for a mindfulness routine on the golf course. We just accept that we don't have full control of where our thoughts are going, and it's really okay with whatever comes through, as crazy as it is at times. But I think we can all find creative methods to redirect those thoughts when they happen to the task at hand, and again, be a bit more present. All right, let's shift from thinking about the present to another important principle that is perfect for golf: being able to see the big picture. Marcus Aurelius often practiced a mental view from above, where he reminded himself how small his troubles were in the grand scheme of the cosmos. Stoics also value the perspective that setbacks are temporary and success is fleeting as well. These little moments that seem so important or scary all fade over time, and you're mostly going to forget them. And this all relates perfectly to golf because, in my opinion, I can't tell you how many times I had a bad stretch of holes or even a few rounds and I've completely lost my perspective and I really felt like the sky was falling. My dad always had this saying that it's hard to smell the roses in the middle of a storm. So another valuable mental technique from Stoicism is simply to remind ourselves, is this that big of a deal? Something that's been really powerful for me is dad perspective. I've had some big moments in tournaments and other rounds where I simply tell myself that my kids aren't really going to care what happened here if I play great or even blow it. All they really care about is me being their dad. So I think all of us need to find some type of anchor that we can attach ourselves to when we inevitably do lose perspective at some point during our rounds. Obviously, I deeply love this game, but at times I do have to remind myself that yes, golf is a silly game where we're chasing this small ball around this huge field. All right, I could keep going for much longer, and if this video is popular, I'd love to explore other topics of Stoicism and how they relate to golf, but let's end with humility. The Stoics praised humility, which is really recognizing our limitations and being open to learning. And obviously this can take so many forms in golf. Simply being humble to the fact that we really never solve this game and we never will. And in one moment we could feel total confidence and then be totally bewildered shortly after. There are things that I believed and was told about this game that ended up being wrong. And I've had to move past my own stubbornness and be open to new ideas and keep learning. Marcus Aurelius always stressed that nobody should be ashamed to seek help. Sometimes as golfers, we need to get a lesson or seek advice, which I'm hopefully giving you right now. But I think all of you watching this know that golf has a way of injecting humility into us rather quickly when we get a little too high on ourselves. And I think this is a good thing for our golf games and our lives in general. So I'll leave you with that last thought and how you can inject more humility into your game. As always, my goal is to offer you a bunch of ideas and hope that one or two of these really resonated with you. If you want to look further into Stoicism, I'd recommend reading a book, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. It's really excellent. Or any of Ryan Holiday's books are also a great starting point. I'm sure many of you have read those as well. Feel free to leave comments on how you think this relates to golf, and we can all kind of learn from each other through our conversations. And don't miss my last video where I tell you about 8 golf myths that need to die.